Welcome back, friends. It's Adrienne from the Paperback Homestead. I experimented last year growing some things outside of the garden fence, and the critters did not bother any of my potato plants, onions, or zinnias that I had growing outside the garden, and that is very exciting. I had zinnias growing in this bed last year, and this year I'm planting Kennebec potatoes. I think I can get 3 rows of potatoes in this space. I'm starting out by clearing all of the old plants from last year and raking this bed clean. I garden with a no-dig method, so I want to get all of the full-size leaves and a lot of this leaf mulch off of the top of the bed before I dig into the soil to put my potatoes in the ground. I like to dig a trench and lay my potatoes out, cover them with soil, and then I'm going to hill them up with leaf mulch and then rake all of this debris that I'm raking off now back over the potato plants. Last year was the year that I expanded my garden, which required a lot of leaf mulch to get things going. I mulched all of the pathways and then mulched all of the beds, and even though we have so many leaves here and so much leaf mulch every year, I ran out last year. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to plant this entire bed. This bed goes the entire length of my garden, and I had put cardboard down but only had enough leaf mulch to cover half the bed. So I just planted half the bed with zinnias, and at the end of the season when Dennis was mulching all of the leaves, I had him just pile a bunch of leaves at the end of this bed. It was a great idea for preparing this bed to plant this year because all of those leaves sat on the bed. All of the snow fell, everything sat there, but it really compacted everything. This was a really big pile of leaves at the end of this bed, and now as I'm trying to rake it out and redistribute this leaf mulch evenly across this entire bed, it is quite a chore. As I started this project, it was almost 80 degrees, and it was a shock to my system for sure. I was able to get it cleaned up and half of this bed prepared for potatoes, but I ended up taking a break and calling it a day because I was just getting way too hot and I started to not feel good. Just, it's been a long winter, and coming out of that cold weather and jumping right into some heavy garden work on an 80-degree day probably wasn't the best idea. So bright and early the next morning I was back at it. we have some sort of little black flies this time of year. I never noticed them before last year, and I tried to ignore them. I was planting things in the garden about the same time last year, and when I came in, my entire face and my arms were covered in these little bug bites. And that's when I realized these little flies bite. They love congregating around my eye sockets and my nostrils. It is so annoying. And now that I know they bite, I always wear my mosquito net when I'm working out in the garden this time of year when the flies are out. So here I am in my mosquito hood, which has been such a wonderful garden tool to have. We have really bad mosquitoes here in the summer, and now in the early spring we have these little black flies. So I'm really glad to have this mosquito netting. Today I'm planting Kennebec potatoes, which is just a good all-purpose potato. It has a great storage, and we really enjoyed having them last year. So this entire bed is going to be full of Kennebec potatoes. You'll have to bear with me in my season of life right now. I'm raising two puppies. They're a year apart. One is just over a year, and the little guy is 3 months old, and it's really hard to find a quiet place to record a voiceover these days. Happy spring, friends.